The stars looked the same as always. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and stared out at the endless black. 6 months they had been out here, so far from Earth that the sun was just another point of light. 6 months of dead worlds and empty systems. 6 months of finding nothing. Captain Ben Hayes sat in his command chair looking tired. The whole crew was tired. 30 people on a ship that felt smaller every day. They were supposed to be explorers, but all they explored were rocks and dust. "Another moon coming up," said Dr. Lisa Chen from her station. She was the science officer, the one who studied all the dead places they found. Same as the last 50. No atmosphere, no water, no life. Jake nodded but kept watching the screen. He was the diplomatic engineer, which was a fancy way of saying he was supposed to talk to aliens if they ever found any. So far, his job had been very easy, too easy. He wanted to find something, anything, that proved humanity was not alone. The moon grew larger on the screen. It circled a gas giant, a huge planet with storms that never ended. The moon itself looked gray and dead. But then Lisa made a sound. "Wait," she said. Her fingers moved fast over her controls. "I'm getting something. Energy readings." "That's not possible." Captain Hayes sat up straight. "What kind of energy?" "I don't know. It's active. Something down there is working. Something is on." Lisa's voice got higher. "Captain, there's a structure on the surface. It's huge." Everyone on the bridge went quiet. Then everyone started talking at once. Jake felt his heart beat faster. A structure. An active structure. That meant someone built it. That meant they were not alone. "Put it on screen," Hayes said. The image changed. There on the gray surface of the moon stood something that did not belong. It was tall, maybe 50 meters high, made of metal that shined even in the weak light. Strange symbols covered its surface. It looked old but perfect, like time could not touch it. "How old is it?" Hayes asked. Lisa shook her head. "I can't tell. Could be thousands of years. Could be millions. But it's still working." "Captain, we need to go down there." Hayes looked at Jake. "Morrison, you're the alien expert. What do you think?" Jake's mouth was dry. "We have to investigate. This is what we came out here for." "All right," Hayes said. "Prepare a landing team. Morrison, you're going down. Take Ryan Peters for security and Amy Watson for science. Be careful. We don't know what's down there." 2 hours later, Jake stood on the surface of the moon. His suit kept him safe from the vacuum outside. Ryan Peters, the security officer, stood nearby with his weapon ready. Dr. Amy Watson was already scanning everything with her equipment. The structure was even more amazing up close. The symbols were not like any language Jake had studied, but they made sense somehow. They had patterns, mathematics, something universal. "There's an entrance," Amy said, pointing. They walked toward it slowly. The door was open, or maybe there had never been a door. Inside was dark, but their lights showed walls covered in more symbols. And in the center of the room was something that glowed softly blue. "What is that?" Ryan asked. Jake moved closer. It was crystal, or something like crystal. It floated in the air with no support. The symbols on the walls seemed to flow toward it, like rivers leading to the sea. "I think it's a computer," Jake said, "or something like a computer. The symbols, they're instructions. They're telling us something." "Telling us what?" Amy asked. Jake studied the patterns. Years of training, years of dreaming about this moment, and now it was real. "I think it's a communication device, a beacon. It's waiting for someone to activate it." "Should we?" Ryan asked. "Activate it, I mean." "We should ask the captain first," Amy said. But Jake was already reaching out. He could not explain it. The symbols made sense to him now. They were showing him what to do. His gloved hand touched the crystal. The crystal blazed with light. The whole structure hummed with power. Jake fell back, but it was too late. The beacon was active. It was sending a message out into the galaxy faster than light, farther than Jake could imagine. "What did you do?" Ryan shouted. "I don't know," Jake said. His voice shook. I had to. It was showing me." They ran back to the shuttle. Captain Hayes was already calling them on the radio. "Morrison, what happened?" "We're reading massive energy output from that structure." "I activated it," Jake said. "Captain, I'm sorry." "I activated the beacon." There was silence on the radio. Then Hayes said, "Get back to the ship now." They flew back to the horizon's edge as fast as the shuttle could go. Jake sat in his seat and shook. What had he done? What had he started? 4 hours later, they got their answer. Lisa was the first to see them. "Captain, we have ships." Multiple contacts coming in fast. The screen showed them 5 ships bigger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved through space like they owned it. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Are they hostile? Hayes asked. Unknown, Lisa said. They're not firing. They're just waiting. Then the radio crackled. A voice spoke clear and perfect in English. Primitive species. You have activated the trial beacon. This is an ancient test. Any species that finds and activates a beacon must prove itself worthy of joining galactic civilization. You will send a representative to our capital world. We will judge if your species deserves to travel among the stars. If you refuse or if you fail, your species will be quarantined. Your worlds will be sealed. You will never leave your system. You have 1 hour to decide. The message ended. The bridge was completely silent. Finally, Hayes spoke. Well, I guess we're not alone after all. Jake stood up. His legs felt weak, but his voice was steady. I'll go. I activated the beacon. This is my responsibility. You don't have to, Hayes said. I'm the captain. I should go. No, Jake said. I'm the diplomat. I'm supposed to talk to aliens. I've trained my whole life for this. Let me do my job. Hayes looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, Morrison. You speak for humanity. Don't let us down. 30 minutes later, Jake stood in the shuttle bay. He had a small bag with a few personal items. That was all they would let him take. Through the window, he could see one of the alien ships. It was waiting for him. Good luck, Lisa said. Come back, Amy added. Jake nodded. He could not speak. He was too scared and too excited at the same time. He walked into the alien shuttle. The door closed behind him. The shuttle moved away from the horizon's edge, toward the massive alien ship, toward a future that no human had ever imagined. Jake was going to meet the stars. The alien ship was like nothing Jake had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, glowing softly with colors that changed as he walked past. There were no corners, no straight lines. Everything curved and flowed like water frozen in place. 2 aliens met him in the shuttle bay. They were tall, much taller than Jake. They had 4 arms and skin covered in scales that shimmered with different colors. Their eyes were large and golden. They did not smile. Jake did not know if they could smile. I am Commander Kael'tor, one of them said. The voice came from a device on his chest, translating his words into English. You are the human representative. Yes, Jake said. His voice sounded small. I'm Jake Morrison. I speak for humanity. Kael'tor studied him with those golden eyes. You are very young. Your species is very young. The trial will not be easy. I understand, Jake said, even though he did not understand at all. The journey took 3 days. Jake had a small room with a bed that adjusted to his body, and food that tasted almost but not quite right. Kael'tor came to visit him each day. He told Jake about the Zarathian Empire. The empire was 50,000 years old. 50,000 years. Jake could barely imagine it. The Zarathians had found the trial beacons scattered across the galaxy. They were tests left by an even older race, a race that was gone now. Any species that activated a beacon had to be judged. Most species failed the test. What happens if they fail? Jake asked. Kael'tor's scales turned a darker color. They are contained. Their worlds are surrounded by barriers they cannot break. They can live, but they can never leave. We have contained 43 species in the last 1,000 years alone. Jake felt cold. What do we have to do to pass? That is for the Queen to decide. On the 3rd day, they arrived at Zarathus Prime. Jake pressed his face against the window and stared. The planet was enormous, covered in cities that rose kilometers into the sky. Rings circled the planet. Huge structures that glowed with power. Ships moved everywhere, more ships than Jake could count. How many people live here? Jake asked. On the planet? 50 billion. In the system? 300 billion. In the Empire? Too many to count. Jake thought about Earth. 7 billion people. It seemed so small now. They took him to the Imperial City, to the palace at its heart. The palace was a mountain of crystal and metal. Inside, the halls were so big that Jake felt like an insect. Aliens of 100 different species walked past him. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some looked almost human. All of them stared at Jake. They have never seen a human before, Kael'tor explained. Most have never seen a species on trial before. You are interesting to them. Jake was taken to a room where they tested him. 3 days of tests. They measured his body, his mind, his knowledge. They asked him questions about Earth, about human history, about wars and art and science. They showed him images of suffering and asked him to explain why humans hurt each other. They showed him images of beauty and asked him to explain why humans created it. Jake answered as best he could. He was honest. He did not lie about the bad things humans had done, but he also talked about the good things, the courage, the kindness, the way humans never gave up even when everything seemed hopeless. On the fourth day, Kyle-Tor came to his room. "It is time. You will meet Queen Velera. She will give her judgment." Jake put on the formal clothes they had given him. They were close to human style, but made from fabric that seemed to glow. His hands shook as he dressed. This was it. The fate of humanity would be decided in the next hour. The grand hall was the biggest room Jake had ever seen. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Thousands of aliens filled the space, all of them watching. At the far end of the hall, on a throne of living crystal, sat the queen. Kyle-Tor led Jake to the center of the hall. Then he left. Jake stood alone with thousands of eyes on him, and he started to walk toward the throne. Each step felt like it took forever. The hall was completely silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat loud in his ears. He kept his eyes on the queen. She was beautiful. That was Jake's first thought. Her scales shimmered with colors that changed as she moved. She wore robes that looked like they were made from starlight. Her face was not human, but there was something in her eyes, something wise and sad and curious all at once. Jake reached the steps to the throne. He stopped and bowed, not too low, showing respect but not submission, just like he had been taught. Queen Velera stood. She was even taller than Kyle-Tor. She descended the steps slowly, studying Jake with those strange eyes. She moved with grace, with power. When she stood in front of him, Jake had to look up to meet her gaze. They stood there, human and alien, looking at each other. Jake did not know what to say. He waited. Then something happened. The queen's scales changed color. They flushed deep violet, a color Jake had never seen before. All around the hall, aliens gasped. Some made sounds of shock. Some stood up from their seats. The queen leaned close to Jake. She was so close he could feel warmth radiating from her. She spoke, her voice soft, meant only for him. "You are invited, human." Jake did not understand. Invited? Invited to what? But the queen had already stepped back. Her scales were still that strange violet color. She looked confused herself, like she did not understand what had just happened. The hall erupted into chaos. Aliens were talking, shouting, arguing. Kyle-Tor appeared at Jake's side, gripping his arm. "Come with me now. What's happening?" Jake asked as Kyle-Tor pulled him toward a side door. "I do not know," Kyle-Tor said. His scales were flashing different colors rapidly. Something Jake had learned meant strong emotion. The queen has never done this, never, not in 300 years. Not with any species. They took Jake to a private suite in the palace. The rooms were beautiful, filled with comfortable furniture and windows that looked out over the endless city. But Jake barely noticed. He sat on a chair and tried to understand what had happened. Kyle-Tor stood by the window. The color she showed, the violet, it is a royal color. It means recognition, connection. The translator struggles to find the right word in your language. It is something the royal family can feel, a sense of another being's emotions. But it has never been so strong before, never. "What does it mean for the trial?" Jake asked. Kyle-Tor turned to look at him. "I do not know. You were supposed to be judged today. But now everything has changed. You must wait here. The queen will send for you when she is ready." After Kyle-Tor left, Jake stood at the window and looked out at the alien city. Somewhere out there beyond the stars was Earth, was home. Did people there know what was happening? Did they know that their fate had just become complicated in ways Jake could not explain? And what about the queen? What did she mean by invited? What had she felt when she looked at him? Jake had come here to speak for humanity, but now he was part of something bigger, something strange and unprecedented. He just hoped he was ready for whatever came next. Jake woke to someone knocking on his door. He had slept badly, dreaming of violet eyes and alien voices. When he opened the door, a small alien stood there. This one looked almost like a bird with feathers and a sharp beak. "The queen requests your presence," the alien said. "She wishes to speak with you." "In private, in her gardens." Jake's heart jumped. "When?" "Now." The gardens were nothing like Jake expected. They were on top of one of the palace towers, open to the sky but protected by some kind of invisible barrier. Plants from 1,000 worlds grew there. Some were green like earth plants. Others were blue or red or colors Jake had no names for. Some seemed to be made of crystal. Some floated in the air. One sang a soft melody as wind passed through it. Queen Velara stood beside a pool of silver water. She wore simpler robes today, not the formal dress from yesterday. She turned when Jake entered. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You're the queen," Jake said. "How could I refuse?" She made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You could refuse, some have. Not many, but some. You are brave, Jake Morrison, or perhaps foolish. I have not decided which. Why did you call me here?" Jake asked. Velara walked to a bench and sat. She looked tired. "I need to explain what happened yesterday. You deserve to know." Jake sat beside her, keeping a respectful distance. The violet color. What did it mean? "My family, the royal line, we have an ability. We can sense emotions. Not thoughts, not words, but feelings. It is how we have ruled fairly for so long. We can tell when someone lies, when they fear, when they hope. It helps us make wise decisions." "That's useful," Jake said. "Yes, but it has limits. Most beings feel the same. Fear, joy, anger. They are like quiet music in the background. I sense them, but they do not stand out." She paused. "When you walked into the hall, I felt you. And you were not quiet music. You were a symphony. You were color in a gray world. I have never felt anything like it in my 300 years of life." Jake did not know what to say. "I don't understand. Why me? Why humans?" "I do not know," Velara admitted. "Perhaps it is something about your species. Perhaps it is something about you specifically. But when I looked at you, I felt alive in a way I have not felt in years. Decades, even. My empire is old, Jake Morrison. So old that we have forgotten how to be surprised." They sat in silence for a moment. A crystal plant nearby chimed softly like bells. "Tell me about humanity," Velara said. "Not the facts from the tests. Tell me stories. Tell me what it means to be human." So Jake told her. He told her about Earth, about the oceans and mountains and cities. He told her about human history, the wars and the peace, the mistakes and the triumphs. He told her about art and music. He told her about his grandmother who taught him to look at the stars and dream. He told her about the first time he saw the ocean and felt so small and so connected all at once. Velara listened to everything. Her scales shifted through different colors as he spoke. Sometimes she asked questions. Sometimes she just looked at him with those strange eyes. "You are chaotic," she said when he finished. "Your species. You do not follow patterns like other species. You destroy and create. You hate and love with equal passion. It should make you weak, but somehow it makes you strong. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Jake asked. "I do not know yet." Before Jake could respond, an older Zarathian entered the garden. His scales were dark gray and scarred. He bowed to the queen but looked angry. "High Chancellor Dracnis," Velara said. Her voice became formal again. "What is it?" "The council is concerned, Your Majesty. You spent an hour with the human yesterday. Now you spend another hour with him today. Without guards, without witnesses. The council questions what is happening." "I am the queen," Velara said coldly. "I do not need permission to speak with whomever I choose." "Of course not, Your Majesty. But the human's trial has not been completed. Many on the council believe his species should be quarantined. They are violent, unpredictable. They have nearly destroyed their own world several times. How can we trust them among the stars?" "Every species has made mistakes," Velara said. "But not every species receives special attention from the queen," Dracnis replied. "Your Majesty, please forgive me, but there are whispers. Some say you are compromised. Some say the human has influenced you somehow." Velara's scales flashed red. Anger. Jake recognized it now. "I am not compromised. And Jake Morrison has not influenced me. I am simply doing my duty, trying to understand his species before I make a judgment." "Then make your judgment," Dracnis said. "The council waits. All the empire waits. Quarantine them or accept them, but decide. This delay is causing unrest." "Very well," Velara said. "Tonight, there will be a formal dinner with the council. I will announce my proposal for humanity at that time. Tell the council to prepare." Dracnis bowed and left. When he was gone, Velara turned to Jake. "I am sorry you had to see that." "Is he right?" Jake asked. "Are you compromised?" "I do not know," Velara said honestly. "I feel something when I am near you. Something I cannot explain. But that does not change my duty. I must do what is best for the Empire. And what is best? I have an idea, but it is risky. For you, for me, for everyone, she stood. Tonight at the dinner, I'm going to propose that humanity join the Empire not as subjects, but as partners. Equals. I believe your chaos, your unpredictability, is exactly what the Empire needs. We have grown stagnant. You could help us grow again. The Council won't like that, Jake said. No, Valara agreed. They will not. Which is why you must speak at the dinner. You must convince them that humanity is worth the risk. Can you do that? Jake thought about Earth, about 7 billion people waiting to hear if they would be free or imprisoned. About his family, his friends, everyone he had ever known. He thought about the responsibility that had been placed on his shoulders when he touched that beacon. I can try, he said. That evening, Jake stood in his room and prepared. He wore the formal clothes again. He practiced what he would say. He tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. When Kael'tor came to escort him to the dinner, the commander looked worried. The Council is not pleased, he said. Many have already decided against humanity. You will need to speak well tonight, Jake Morrison. No pressure then, Jake tried to joke. Kael'tor did not laugh. The fate of worlds rests on this dinner. Pressure is all there is. Jake followed him toward the council chamber, his heart pounding, knowing that the next few hours would decide everything. The council chamber was filled with aliens, hundreds of them from dozens of species. They sat in circles around a central platform where Jake stood with Valara. The room smelled of things Jake could not identify. The air felt heavy with tension. Jake had just finished speaking. He had talked about humanity's potential, about the good things humans could bring to the Empire. He had been honest about their faults but hopeful about their future. Now he waited while the council members whispered among themselves. High Chancellor Dracnus stood. His scales were almost black with anger. The human speaks well, he said. But words are easy. Let me show you what humans really are. Images appeared in the air above them. Images of Earth, but not beautiful images. These showed war, destruction, cities burning, people hurting each other, century after century of violence. This is humanity, Dracnus said. They fight over land, over resources, over ideas. They poison their own planet. They create weapons that could destroy all life on their world. And now we are supposed to welcome them into the galaxy? Give them access to technology that could threaten every species in the Empire? Jake wanted to argue, but he could not deny what the images showed. It was all true. Humans had done terrible things. Answer for your species' crimes, human, Dracnus demanded. Jake took a breath. Yes, we've done terrible things. All of that is true. But we've also done amazing things. We've created beauty. We've shown kindness. We've chosen peace even when war seemed easier. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better. Isn't that what matters? Not where we've been, but where we're going. Before Dracnus could respond, a young Zerathian counselor stood. His name was Sectra, and his scales were bright green. I have a question for the Queen, he said. His voice was sharp. Your Majesty, you have shown unprecedented interest in this human. Your behavior has been unusual. How can we trust your judgment when you appear to be emotionally compromised? The chamber went silent. Everyone stared at Sectra. No one spoke to the Queen like that. Ever Valara's scales flashed bright red. How dare you question my judgment? I have ruled this empire for 3 centuries. I have never made a decision based on emotion rather than wisdom. Then explain the violet, Sectra pressed. Explain why you see this human in private without witnesses. Explain why you propose making his species equals when we have never done so for any trial species. Your actions suggest you are not thinking clearly. Valara stood, her full height imposing. But before she could speak, alarms began to wail. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. Council members jumped to their feet, talking urgently. Kael'tor rushed to Valara's side. Your Majesty, a human ship has entered the system. It is broadcasting a distress signal. The ship is badly damaged and losing life support. Jake's heart dropped. What ship? How many people? Kael'tor checked his device. The vessel is called Pathfinder. It carries 93 humans. They have less than 6 hours before their systems fail completely. We have to help them, Jake said immediately. No, Dracnus said firmly. This proves my point exactly. Human technology is primitive. They are dangerous to themselves and others. We should let the ship fail. It will show them the consequences of their recklessness. You want to let them die? Jake could not believe what he was hearing. There are 93 people on that ship, families, children. I want to protect the Empire, Dracnus replied coldly. Let me go, Jake said, turning to Valara. Give me a ship and a team. Let me try to rescue them. If I succeed, it proves humans are worth saving. If I fail, then you can quarantine us. But please, let me try. Valara looked at Dracnus, then back at Jake. If you fail, humanity accepts immediate quarantine. No appeals. No second chances. And if he succeeds but violates any Imperial protocols, Dracnus added, he will be tried for crimes against the Empire. Agreed? Jake did not hesitate. Agreed, Keltor stepped forward. I will lead the mission. It is my duty to evaluate human capabilities in crisis. I am coming too, Valara said. The chamber erupted in protest. Your Majesty, you cannot, Dracnus said. It is too dangerous. You are the Queen. Exactly, Valara said. If this human is willing to risk everything for his people, how can I do less for the principles I claim to uphold? I am going. That is final. An hour later, Jake stood on the deck of a Zarathian rescue ship. The Pathfinder floated ahead of them, and it looked bad. The hull was broken in several places. Pieces of metal drifted away from it. Jake could see the glow of fires inside through the breaches. Life signs show 78 people still alive, Keltor reported. 15 are already dead. The ship's reactor is unstable. We have 4 hours, maybe less. Jake put on the environment suit the Zarathians had given him. It fit perfectly, adjusting to his body. What's the plan? We dock with the intact sections, Keltor explained. Teams will move through the ship, gathering survivors. You will lead one team. You know human technology better than we do. The rescue was harder than Jake imagined. Inside the Pathfinder, everything was chaos. Corridors were blocked with debris. Some sections had no gravity. Others had no air. Jake led his team through the wreckage, finding people huddled in emergency shelters. Some were injured. All were terrified. It's okay, Jake kept saying. We're here to help. You're safe now. They saved 78 people. Every single survivor. Jake felt a moment of hope as the last person was carried onto the Zarathian ship. Then the alarm started. The reactor, Keltor said urgently. It's going critical. We have minutes before it explodes. Both ships will be destroyed. Can we vent it? Jake asked. Manually release the reactor core? Yes, but someone would have to stay in the engine room. The radiation, it would be fatal. Jake did not think. He just moved. He ran back toward the Pathfinder's engine room. Behind him, he heard Valara shouting his name. He heard Keltor ordering him to stop, but he did not stop. The engine room was filled with red light and screaming alarms. Jake found the manual release controls. His hands shook as he began the sequence. The radiation counter on his suit climbed higher and higher. Jake, stop. Valara's voice came through his radio. You're going to die. The reactor will explode in 2 minutes, Jake said. His voice was calm. Get everyone to safety. Get the Pathfinder survivors home. I won't let you die. You have to, Jake said. He activated the final sequence and locked the door from inside. Tell Earth we tried. Tell them to keep reaching for the stars. The reactor began to vent. 30 seconds, 20, 10. Jake closed his eyes. He thought about home. About his grandmother and the stars. At least he had tried. At least he had done something that mattered. Then everything became light and heat and pain. But through the pain, he felt something else. Arms around him, a pull. The sense of moving through space impossibly fast. When Jake opened his eyes, he was on the deck of the Zarathian ship. Valara lay beside him, both of them burned and bleeding. Medical teams rushed toward them. You saved me, Jake whispered. We saved each other, Valara replied. Then they both lost consciousness. Through the window, the Pathfinder exploded in a ball of fire, but everyone aboard was safe. Everyone had survived. Jake woke up 3 days later. His body hurt, but not as much as he expected. He was in a medical facility, surrounded by machines that hummed softly. Through the window, he could see the spires of the Imperial City reaching toward the sky. A Zarathian doctor entered. Her scales were pale blue. You are awake, good. Your recovery has been remarkable. The radiation should have killed you, but our technology has healed most of the damage. You will have scars, but you will live. The Queen, Jake asked. His throat was dry. She is in the next room. She woke yesterday. She has been asking about you. The survivors from the Pathfinder? All safe. All recovering. You saved them, Jake Morrison. You and the Queen. Later that day, after he could walk again, Jake went to Velara's room. She sat by the window looking out at the city. Her scales were duller than before, but she turned and smiled when she saw him. "You are an idiot," she said fondly. "So are you," Jake replied. "You risked your life to save me. Why? Because it was right. Because you would have done the same for me. Because I feel something when I am near you. A connection. Can you feel it too?" Jake nodded. He had felt it since he woke up. A sense of Velara's presence even when she was in another room. Her emotions, faint but there. Contentment, relief, hope. "My doctors say we have formed a bond," Velara continued. "A psychic link. Such things are thought to be impossible between different species. But here we are. What does it mean?" Jake asked. "I do not know, but I think it is important. I think it represents something new, a way for different species to truly understand each other." Kael'tor arrived to brief them on what had happened while they recovered. The rescue had been broadcast across the Empire. Billions had watched the human risk his life to save his people. Billions had watched the Queen do the same for her principles. Public opinion had shifted dramatically. "The Pathfinder survivors have been interviewed," Kael'tor said. "Their stories paint humanity as brave, caring, worthy. Many species that were against you now support you." "But not everyone," Velara guessed. "No. High Chancellor Dracnus has invoked an ancient law. He demands a trial of merit. He claims your bond with Jake proves you are compromised and cannot rule fairly." Velara's scales darkened. "What are his demands?" "That you dissolve the bond or abdicate the throne. If you refuse, he will challenge your authority. It could mean civil war." Jake felt sick. "This is my fault. I brought this on you." "No," Velara said firmly. "This has been building for years. Dracnus fears change. The bond simply gave him an excuse." They spent the next day planning. Jake had an idea, but it was risky. When he finally proposed it to Velara and the Council, many members looked skeptical. "Give humanity a trial period," Jake said. "Not a judgment of pass or fail. A trial of contribution. Give Earth 5 years. Let humans come to the Empire, share their art, their science, their ideas. If after 5 years the Empire is better for having us, accept us. If not, we accept quarantine voluntarily." "And what of the bond?" Dracnus demanded. "What of the Queen's compromised judgment?" "The bond stays," Velara said. "Jake will remain here as humanity's ambassador and my personal advisor. The bond is not a weakness. It is proof that true cooperation between species is possible. You give humanity too much influence," Dracnus argued. "Influence earned through merit is the Empire's founding principle," a younger counselor pointed out. "Jake Morrison earned his influence by risking his life. How is that different from how any of us gained our positions?" The debate lasted 3 days. In the end, the council voted. It was close, but the proposal passed. Humanity would have 5 years to prove their worth. But there was a condition. Jake would be monitored constantly. One major violation of Imperial law, and humanity would be quarantined immediately. 6 months passed. Jake stood in the palace and watched as the first group of humans arrived from Earth. Artists, scientists, engineers, diplomats. They looked nervous and excited as they descended from their ships. Jake remembered that feeling. "They will do well," Velara said, joining him at the window. Her scales shimmered with that violet color that Jake had learned meant she was content. "I hope so," Jake said. "A lot depends on them." "A lot depends on us," Velara corrected. "We are the bridge between our peoples. We must show them that cooperation is possible." She was right. Over the next weeks, Jake worked harder than he ever had in his life. He helped humans adjust to the Empire. He helped the Empire understand humans. He mediated disputes, explained misunderstandings, and slowly built connections between 2 very different civilizations. The bond with Velara grew stronger. They did not need words to communicate sometimes. A glance was enough. A feeling. It was strange and wonderful and occasionally overwhelming. One day, Jake received permission to visit Earth. He had not been home in almost a year. When his ship entered Earth's atmosphere, he pressed his face against the window and cried. The planet looked so beautiful, so fragile, so precious. His family met him at the landing pad. They hugged him so hard he could barely breathe. His grandmother, older now but still strong, held his face in her hands. "Look at you," she said. "My boy, the ambassador to the stars." "I did what you taught me," Jake said. "I looked up. I dreamed, and the dreams came true." Later, Jake stood on the Golden Gate Bridge and video-called Velara. Her face appeared on his communicator, scales shimmering. "How is Earth?" she asked. "Beautiful. Chaotic. Home." Jake looked out at the ocean, then up at the sky where the Zarathian fleet orbited. "Do you ever regret it? Inviting me that day in the Grand Hall?" Velara's laugh came through the speaker, musical and warm. "Not for a second. Though next time I invite someone to something, I should probably warn them it might change the fate of 2 civilizations." "Where would be the adventure in that?" Jake smiled. They talked for an hour, sharing stories, making plans for when Jake returned to Zarathus Prime. When the call ended, Jake stood on the bridge and thought about everything that had happened. Everything that was still to come. A year ago, he had been just an engineer on an exploration ship. Now he was an ambassador, a bridge between worlds, connected to an alien queen through a bond that should not exist. The next day, Jake boarded a shuttle back to Zarathus Prime. Earth gleamed behind him as he left, but he did not feel sad. He felt hopeful. Humanity had been given a chance. Now it was up to them to prove they deserved it. In the Empire, Velara prepared for his return. She stood in her gardens looking at the stars and felt his presence drawing closer through their bond. She smiled. Jake had touched a beacon and called out to the galaxy. The galaxy had answered. And now, human and Zarathian together, they would show the universe what was possible when different worlds chose to understand each other instead of fear each other. The trial period had begun. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in 50,000 years, the Zarathian Empire felt alive with possibility. And humanity, at long last, had found their place among the stars.